Are you missing bread on keto? In today's video, we are going to see if we can make keto-friendly bread rolls that are super tasty and super easy to make. Welcome to Pop Keto, where we aim to help you live a sustainable keto and low-carb lifestyle. Today, we are making keto-friendly bread rolls. Now, we all know, all of us who are either starting keto or have been on keto for a while, most of us miss bread. Now, there are lots of keto and low-carb bread recipes out there. Now, some of them can be a little bit tricky and technical. This recipe is super easy. So if you think you can't bake, this recipe is for you because it is easier than you think. So because we're talking bread, you probably want to understand the carb comparison. So on a normal store-bought bread roll, we are looking at about 26 grams of carbs. For a wholemeal roll, it is about 23 grams in net carbs. For this recipe, our bread roll is 3.5 grams net carbs. So that is a huge difference. And that's based on dinner rolls, of which we're making 6 today. If you wanted to make hamburgers, you could use this exact recipe and make 4, and the net carbs would be 5.25. And that is significantly lower than in a standard bread roll. The beauty is it's completely gluten-free and it doesn't have all the ingredients that you are trying to avoid. And the great part is that it's loaded with fiber, so lots of good stuff for you. So let's get into it. To start with, we will preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit. We are starting with 170 grams of ground almonds. And to that, I'm adding 120 grams of Gold Flaxseed meal. Next up, we are putting 20 grams of Psyllium Husk. It's the powder, not the husks. So next up, we are putting in 10 grams of baking powder. This baking powder is gluten-free. Next up, 7 grams of salt. This one that we're using is pink Himalayan salt. And for our last of the dry ingredients, we have 1 teaspoon of milled chia seeds. Now we're just going to combine that through. So any of the baking powder clumps, we just want to make sure that we have broken those down and that is well stirred through. So now we're up to the wet ingredients, starting with 3/4 of a cup of hot water. So I haven't actually measured the temperature of the hot water, but what I've found works for me is doing 1/4 of a cup of cold water and 2/4 or half a cup of boiling hot water. And to that, I've added 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So we're going to pop that into the mix. So we'll just start to stir that together. We do have some more wet ingredients to go in, so don't worry if it's looking a little bit dry. Next up, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And our final wet ingredient is 2 large eggs. So I've already pre-beaten these together. We just stir that through. So now we're just going to put that aside for about 15 minutes to allow the wet ingredients to absorb in. 15 minutes later, and we are now ready to portion our bread rolls into 6. So you can freestyle this and divide your dough into 6 individual pieces. If you want to be precise and make sure that each of the bread rolls are exactly the same, you can weigh the whole dough and then weigh out the 6 individual portions. Next up, we are going to put an egg wash on our buns. So in doing this, just crack 1 egg into a bowl and just brush it on. So in putting the egg wash on, it helps the buns brown in the oven. So to finish this off, we are going to be sprinkling on some sesame seeds. Now you may want to sprinkle something else on like poppy seeds, but that is completely up to you. These are now ready for the oven. We will bake these for about 25 minutes. All right, that's done. Let's get them out. And these are looking amazing. So these are now done and nicely browned. The way to check that they're done is to just put a skewer in through the middle and it should come out clean. So with traditional bread, when you pull it out of the oven, usually you can get into it straight away. However, with these, you do need to let them cool. So even though these are cooked, they actually set during the cooling process. So we're gonna let these cool and then we'll come back and taste. All right, they've cooled now, let's taste. So this is really yummy and it is kind of tricky to have to wait until it cools, but it is definitely better to wait until it cools. Now this is quite dense. As a sort of reference point, if you think of a dense rye bread, it's kind of like that. Now it doesn't taste like that, but just in terms of the texture and density. So the flavor is more like a wholemeal bread. And when you put on some really nice butter, it is amazing. So this is a great option if you're wanting to have a bread roll with your soup, or if you're having a roast dinner and you want to have some bread rolls. And because it is quite dense, it is quite filling as well. So you're not really going to be having lots and lots of rolls. And as you've seen, it is so easy to make. So I hope this recipe really helps you out with your search for the ultimate bread roll. If you do try it out, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to know how you went with it. So that's it. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you in our next video.